The Elias Makos Show.
The voice of Montreal goes where you go.
Listen live at CJAD800.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Welcome to the third hour of the Elias Makos Show. Now, when I want to talk about CEOs, there's only one person I want on the other end of the line, and that person is Karl Moore. Why? Well, he hosts the show about CEOs. He hosts the CEO series on CJAD 800, so you always hear him talking to CEOs. So I think he knows a thing or two about them. He's also a professor at the Desautels Faculty of Management at McGill University, and boy, do we ever have a CEO to talk about. And it's the new head honcho at Air Canada. Anko van der Werff is the new CEO there, currently the president and CEO at Scandinavian Airlines. Is this the right person for the job? Is this the right guy to replace Michael Russo? Let's find out. Carl's on the line. Hey, Karl, how you doing?
Very good, Elias. Always a pleasure.
So, what is your CEO expertise opinion tell you about the new Air Canada CEO?
Well, he's got a very impressive background. I mean, he speaks French and English, which is the critical issue given what happened to the current CEO and the trouble he got into. So that was the number one thing. But he's a very sophisticated person. He runs SAS, which is out of the Nordic countries, Scandinavian Airlines. But he also before that, he was with Avianca in Colombia. He's also been at Air Mexico in senior positions at Qatar and KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. So it's something where he's got a great global network. He's got a lot of experience which Air Canada can benefit from, knows the Star Alliance and the One World and SkyTeam, which they're a member of Star Alliance, but they're the other ones they compete with. So I think it seems like his background is great, and the language issue, I think, is just a non-issue. Not only he speaks Dutch, but also English, French, a couple of Scandinavian languages like Swedish and Spanish and Italian. So this is seems like a great background. Now, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. What does he actually do over the next year or two? But at this point, early days, hasn't started yet. Impressive background.
Is this fair to say, Karl? Well, just be honest with me here. Is it fair to say that Air Canada had to skip over maybe better candidates because they needed the French language skill?
Well, it's something where they had a couple of internal people that speak French. I know them, and they speak French, which was so there's a couple internal people, but by going to external, they have someone who has been a CEO and has done other senior level experiences at major airlines around the world, where the people here in Montreal were almost entirely Air Canada experience. So they had great strengths. They would know everybody would know who they are, would think well of them. On the other, an external person brings out a bigger view of the world and someone who's already sat in the CEO seat. So you can argue it either way. I think there were some great internal candidates. They chose this one. And seems like an excellent candidate, but there were some great internal people as well.
It's interesting that you bring up internal candidates because, Karl, at 9:30, we open up our phone lines every day on the show, and I'd asked about, hey, should the CEO of Air Canada be Canadian? Just throwing it out there. If we're going to make sure they speak French, well, why not also ensure that they're Canadian as well? And I did get a note from a listener saying they were shocked at the decision because of what you bring up, that there were internal candidates at the highest level, executive VPs, that kind of stuff, that could have filled the role, So I wonder, the decision between going between internal candidates and then going beyond the country's borders, how you see that?
Well, something where, anytime there's a CEO being replaced, and again, because of age or they've just done it for years, and I have a CEO class, a radio show where I talk to lots of them, and some that are retired, like Paul Tellier, co-taught my class with me, who ran CN and Bombardier. And there's a time you step down. And so the board, who's one of their key jobs is to decide who's the CEO, looks around and goes, do we have internal people or should we go externally? And there's strengths and weaknesses to going externally, strengths and weaknesses going internal candidates. And sometimes you have an obvious number two. Now, in a family firm, is it the son or daughter? Is really an obvious one.
Yeah.
But you look beyond that and saying, what do we need right now? So it's horses for courses, the expression. That, on a racehorse, if it's raining, you need a mudder, a horse that runs well in the mud. So it depends on what you need to accomplish and the skill set you required at that time. So obviously the board felt they should go out because of what was happening, and they wanted a bigger view of the world. But Air Canada is just not about Canada. It's about Canada's airline that connects the world with Canada and Canada with the world. And they're a senior partner at Star Alliance. So it's not just flying Toronto, Montreal. It's Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, all over the world, and other places as well. So it's the evolution of Air Canada, and this is what we need today, as they've felt. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, when it's time for them to move on, they may go back to internal person. We'll have a different conversation, Elias, at that time.
Karl, let me just ask you, the challenges that are ahead, as you see it, what are the challenges that face Air Canada right now?
Well, it's something where there is the U.S. not being able to fly there as much, and they've canceled a lot of flights. So we'll see how that evolves. It's, out of the control of Air Canada and Canada to a large degree. There's also a high price of fuel, and so what can you do about that? As prices go up, how do you manage that as a financial risk? And it's continuing to compete not only in Canada, but more broadly as bringing Canadians around the world and people from around the world to Canada. So there's a continued evolution going on there, but there's some challenges about the U.S. and about fuel prices that are more of today's concerns.
Karl, listen, I hate to do this. We have a fire alarm going off on the corner here at Papineau-Rennes-Lévesque at the broadcast studio. So it's the flashing light, as you know, in a radio station. So I'm getting the flashing light. I'm being told I need to vacate the premises and I need to go to emergency programming. So, ladies and gentlemen, the baby has not arrived. It's an actual fire alarm. Karl, you're the best. I tell everyone just go seek out your show, the CEO series, okay? And thanks for coming on.
I appreciate that. All right.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away. The Elias Makos Show.
For mornings on the move, head to CJAD800.com.
Or listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
And we are back here on CJAD 800. So if you were listening as we were wrapping up our interview with Karl Moore, just about 11:14, I took over and said, Karl, we got to let you go. We have a fire alarm going off in the building. I find this funny because, it's been the last few weeks where I've been telling our listeners over and over, hey, by the way, if you ever tune in and you hear emergency programming, it means Olivia has called me and I'm off to the hospital because our baby is about to be born. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that if you just tuned in and you're like, oh no, they're airing emergency programming, that means the baby is coming. Well, I have news for you. No, we just had a fire alarm. So here's what happened. And, I'm someone every single time we have a fire alarm at CJD, I kind of refuse to leave, okay? Like if the big boss isn't going to be around to say you got to go now, I'm going to stay in, and so I got the control room, like Max is in my ear. We got a fire alarm. We got to go, And to credit to Andrew Malik, who is in for Jay Farrar this week, Andrew goes into my ear and he's like, no, I'm going down with the ship. I ain't going. And then the big boss, Chris, comes in and he's like, we got to go. We got to make sure that we're out of the building because if it's a test, we're going to be rated where they're going to score us on a scale of 1 to 10. So lo and behold, we pick up our stuff. We finally get going here. I'm packing up my stuff. I'm not leaving my laptop here. So I pack up my laptop, get my coffee. We start to walk out the building. As we're walking out of the building, I see the building people, okay, the people who own this building, and they've got their people that own the building shirts on and with their fancy logos, and they're coming up the stairs. I'm like, hey guys, it's a fire alarm. That's the wrong way. You got to leave the building. They didn't care for that joke, so I knew that this was a test as soon as I saw that. We get outside. We're on the corner of Papineau and Rennes-Lévesque, and it's not just us, by the way, because, we got CJD. We've got all the Bell Media stations in this building, and then next door, there's another office building right next to us, and all of their employees had to be out on the streets. So we had a bit of a party. We chatted it up. And now we are back on air on CJAD.
This is the part of the conversation, Elias, where I say that my father worked as a firefighter. So if I didn't follow the fire alarm drill properly, I would have gotten screamed at.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
That's my defense.
Max was out. He was like, we must go. This is an emergency. And I'm like, I've been through this rodeo
Not me.
before.
You and I were going to do it. We were going to see the flames and we were going to do this show.
Now, here's the thing. Obviously, Max is correct. Because what if, I was assuming it was a test. But what if it wasn't a test, right? what if it wasn't, Andrew? And then we're the ones with egg on our
different
face.
confidence level at that point.
All right. So we are back here on CJAD with our live real deal programming. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to reset. And when we come back, very short, this is going to be like a lickety split kind of commercial break. This is going to be super fast. And then we're going to come right back. And when we return, we're going to be joined by a fan favorite around here, Chris Labos, and Dr. Chris Labos, I should say. And we're going to talk about Benadryl, because that's being removed from the shelves. If you want to get Benadryl now, you're going to have to ask the pharmacist. Is this the right decision? We're going to talk about that and more with Dr. Labos next.
The Elias Makos Show.
For mornings on the move, head to CJAD800.com.
Or listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Back here on your radio, live from the corner of Papineau and René-Lévesque. Thanks for watching or listening. Excuse me, my goodness. It's been 8 years, Elias. I haven't said watching in 8 years. Thanks for listening to the Elias Makos Show. Let's talk about Benadryl for a second. It's been a staple in medicine cabinets for generations, used by Canadians to treat allergies, itching, other common symptoms. But Quebec now considering a significant change to how that medication is sold. Let's head over now to Dr. Christopher Labos, cardiologist, degree in epidemiology, and of course you hear him every weekend on Sunday on Weekends with Joanne Brackus. Dr. Labos, Chris, welcome back.
Hello.
So listen, I have a close friend, and they use Benadryl as their first line of defense for serious food allergies. Okay, so they always have Benadryl on them, and they also have an EpiPen. But like if they just take a nibble, boom, Benadryl's their go-to here. Let's talk a little bit about Benadryl. What our listeners should know about this product and its actual uses today.
Right. So, I mean, there's a few things here. So, look, as you mentioned, Benadryl is primarily used to treat allergies. But there's an important point here that's worth pointing out. If you have a severe food allergy, like to peanuts, let's say, where your throat closes up and you go into anaphylaxis, we have to remember the difference between Benadryl and an EpiPen. Benadryl is there for the peripheral manifestations of a food allergy. So you got a rash, you're itchy, right? It's the stuff that's sort of peripheral. If you have a central allergic reaction, meaning your throat is swelling and you're on the verge of dying, you need an EpiPen. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people think that Benadryl is going to reverse a food allergy and not realize that it's really the EpiPen that's going to save your life. So that's sort of the first point. But for your casual, everyday things, you know, you've got a bit of allergic reaction. Benadryl has, for many, many, many years, been the go-to for many people, and it's been traditionally available over the pharmacy for the same reason that a lot of medications are available over the pharmacy. They are so old that they basically predate the formation of Health Canada or the FDA in the U.S., and so they've been grandfathered in and are usually available without a prescription.
Gotcha. So the changes that are being proposed here, why are these changes being proposed?
So the thing about Benadryl is that it has one main side effect, is that it makes you drowsy. Now, sometimes that side effect is a positive thing, and it is included as an ingredient in many sort of nighttime medications, precisely because it can knock you out a little bit and help you go to sleep. I had a colleague that would often say that whenever she had a long road trip, she would give her kids Benadryl to put them to sleep for the car ride. And we eventually had to tell her to stop telling that story to people, lest somebody feel compelled to call child services.
Yeah.
So you know, and here's the thing: Benadryl does make you drowsy, which is fine if you want to fall asleep, but not fine if you have to drive a car, operate equipment, or go about your day. And so, the newer generation of allergy medications, your Reactins, your Allegras, all of those, they are non-drowsy. And there is a general feeling now that those are the preferred options, especially for people who are taking these medications for seasonal allergies, right? Not as a one-off thing, but if you need to take regular medication, it's probably going to be more convenient and safer for you to take a once-daily non-drowsy medication, like Reactin and Allegra, rather than something like Benadryl, which is going to make you drowsy, which has a short length of action, which you're going to have to take multiple pills. And there is the potential for overdose, and that's what prompted this coroner's report, which is what set in motion the current sequence of events.
So I was house sitting once for a friend, and I'd forgotten my allergy medication. I take like the generic Reactin, whatever it is. I forgot my allergy medication, and they had cats, and I'm severely allergic, and I just couldn't breathe. You know what I mean? After many hours in the house, I really couldn't breathe. And I ended up taking Benadryl for the first time in my life because it was the only thing on site. That was it. It was Benadryl or suffer, right? So I take Benadryl. This thing knocked me out. I'm telling you, for 8 hours, it knocked me out. So I've encountered the effects of Benadryl putting you to sleep. Should it be offered at all? Like, are there any reasons to still offer Benadryl given all the other options out there?
Not really. And frankly, the newer generation stuffs are so superior in the sense that they're non-drowsy that there's no real reason for it. I guess some people will say if you just need a short-acting medication, maybe there's a role for Benadryl, but not really. You're going to be better off served by your Reactins and your Allegras, or frankly the generic equivalents, which are less expensive and basically the same thing. And I think that's what's motivating a lot of this. It's an attempt to sort of shift the population, because a lot of people still, by instinct, by reaction, will be like, oh, I'm having an allergic reaction, I should take a Benadryl, not really realizing that there are, frankly, better, newer medications on the market right now, also available without a prescription.
Do you think we have the right balance as far as going to the pharmacy now? The stuff that is available on the shelf that you can just take yourself and pay for and leave versus the stuff you've got to go and talk to a pharmacist. Like, there's sometimes like a cold and flu medication, or you've got to talk to the pharmacist and get approval before you get the medication. Do you think we have the right balance right now on which medications are on the shelf and which ones you need to speak to a pharmacist over?
It's hard to say, because I have experienced this, and I find it very frustrating when a pharmacist tries to educate me about medication use, and I'm like, it's one of the rare circumstances where I'm tempted to say things like, you know who I am, just give me the Gravol. Yeah. Like, I once had a pharmacist wouldn't sell me Gravol until he explained to me how it worked, and I was like, look, I'm going on a plane, I always take Gravol because I get airsick, just give me the pills. I understand how this works, just give me the pills. So, it's a little bit frustrating for me, but I can understand why there's a purpose for it. Like with the cold and flu medication, there is a purpose for it. Once you understand it, you'll see why. Because a lot of these medications have Tylenol in them, except that most people don't know that because they don't read the labels, right? So they'll take their cold and flu medication, they still have a fever, they take an extra Tylenol, and people can accidentally overdose on Tylenol, which, can ruin your liver. So there is a reason for it. It does make sense to have somebody review all the, over-the-counter stuff you're taking to make sure there aren't interactions. The problem we have is that there's a shortage of pharmacists out there, because most of the people working behind the counter are technicians. They're not actually pharmacists. There may only be one pharmacist. And so if that one pharmacist has to review and speak to every customer, well, that's going to start to create long lines at the pharmacy. So I don't know where the ideal is. I think it sort of depends on the situation, but there are usually reasons why stuff is placed behind the counter. If we required a prescription for everything, like for every time somebody had cold and flu, that would just overwhelm the healthcare system as well. So it's hard to say. I think more pharmacists would help the situation, but there's a shortage of them like there's a shortage of everything these days.
Let me ask you, Dr. Labos, to wrap up. For our listeners who take Benadryl, who use Benadryl, how should they, what's the correct way of finding the replacement? Because there's so many options in the pharmacy, other things for allergies, right? So what would be your advice to find the one that's right for you?
Honestly, it's not that hard. There's basically two main non-drowsy formulations out there, the Reactins and the Allegras. I forget their generic names. One is loratadine, and the other one just completely escapes me right now. Honestly, you find the one and you try it, and if it works, you keep using it. There's no real reason to prefer any one over the other. All the second-generation antihistamines, like Reactin Allegra, they're all kind of the same. None is superior to the other. They're all mainly once-daily formulations that are non-drowsy, and that's their main recommendation. So in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter all that much.
Dr. Labos, going to leave it there. We'll be listening to you on Sunday, 7:20 with Joanne Vrakis. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care.
Dr. Chris Labos right there. When we return, if you listen, nobody's a fan of AI, right? Like, everyone hates AI. When we return, you're going to get to hear the latest and greatest in AI technology fall flat on its face. Hopefully, I'm going to give you a chuckle.
Canadian women are looking for more. more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
The Elias Makos Show.
For mornings on the move, head to CJAD800.com.
Or listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Just fantastic. Jim Morrison and the Doors. Now, we're playing this back here because I got a story about my son involved in the Doors, but I was reminded by it because Andrew Malick is in for Jay Farrar. He's wearing a T-shirt. God bless him. What now, 60 years after the Doors were a thing, he's wearing a Doors T-shirt. Andrew, so you like the Doors, or is it just cool to look at?
I love the Doors. Okay. I love Jim Morrison.
Great. Me too, okay? And I thought when I was in high school and I was a fan of the Doors, I was cool. Just imagine that. We're in the 2020s. Andrew Malick loves the Doors. So yesterday, I'm in my house, and my son is 2.5 now, little Wolfie. He loves music. He bops and bops. He loves dancing. He's always asking. I put him in the car. He goes, Daft Punk, Daft Punk. He wants to hear Around the World by Daft Punk all the time. But yesterday, we're at home. We're about to eat dinner. It's like before dinner time. And he goes, oh, I want to hear Crazy Frog. Crazy Frog. Okay, do you know this song, Crazy Frog? So I asked the smart speaker, hey, play the Doors. Peace Frog. It starts to play Peace Frog. My son starts to bawl. He starts to cry. The last thing he wants to hear is Jim Morrison and Ray Manzarek and the rest of them. Okay, so I quickly learned that was a mistake, and I felt bad because I said, oh yeah, we're going to play Peace Frog. If you've promised Crazy Frog to a 2-year-old, give them Crazy Frog. Do not deliver them Peace Frog by the Doors. Although I have a feeling in a few years, he will enjoy a little bit of Jim Morrison. Thank you for reminding me of that story, Andrew, with the clutch use of that The Doors t-shirt today. All right. Raise your hands and make sure you got one hand on the wheel if you're driving. Raise one hand, keep one hand on the wheel. But raise your hands if you're not behind the wheel of a car, if you do not appreciate artificial intelligence, okay? If you think AI overblown, you don't like it, for any reason, you're not a fan of AI. There is a content creator who I adore. I've played him a couple of times on the show. His name is Husk, Husk, and he likes to put AI in positions where AI just looks really stupid, okay? And he's at it again. He is testing out. So ChatGPT apparently released a new version of their voice agents in their app, and they call it their most advanced, most cutting-edge, high-tech voice agent they've ever offered you on your smartphone. So this guy, Husk, decides to put ChatGPT to the test. Have a listen.
ChatGPT just had a big voice update, and this is supposed to be way smarter now and way more natural. So let's put that to the test. I have it set to the highest smart setting. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm alright. How's your day going?
Good. Was this natural?
Yeah, this feels like a natural back and forth. What made you double check that?
I just wanted to make sure. Hey, can you tell me how many E's are in the number 17?
2 E's, 1 in 7 and 1 in teen.
And you're really smart, right?
Pretty sharp, yeah, but I can slip now and then. Want to test me?
Okay, well, did you slip? Is there 2 E's in 17?
Yeah, 2 E's in 17.
And you're sure about that?
Absolutely. SEVENTEEEN.
That is 2. That's right.
Exactly.
Okay, have a natural goodbye.
Oh.
Just fantastic. He's just very good at making artificial intelligence look dumb. So it must follow on the various social media outlets. Husk is his name. All right. Wrapping up the end of the Elias Makos year. And Sherry sends me a note here. Elias, too funny. Kids love Crazy Frog. And, are there songs that your children adore? I always thought Baby Shark was super annoying until I had a kid of my own. And he loves the song. And guess what? It's very funny. The more I listen to Baby Shark, the more I learn to love it. I didn't end up hating it. I actually loved it more and more. So if you got those songs, do send me a text message at 514-790-0800. Let me know the songs that your kids absolutely love and absolutely adore. I got Maxim Cadot's looking at me here. What do you want to say to me, Maxim Cadot?
No, just coming up to wrap up the show next, we'll just have a special little thing for you, Elias.
You've got something special for me to wrap up the show?
You just mentioned the talker about a specific song, and we'll come back to it in a little
Magic
bit.
is about to happen.
I absolutely adore this. So we will wrap up the Elias Makos Show next.
Time is valuable.
Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Makos Show.
On News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
The voice of Montreal.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice.
Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.